The dawn broke sluggishly over the battlefield, its pale light cutting through the lingering haze of smoke and ash. Private William "Will" Hargrove sat in the corner of a muddy trench, his back pressed against the cold earth, clutching a battered tin cup filled with weak tea. The liquid barely warmed his frostbitten fingers, but he savored it as if it were a fine feast. It was November 1917, and the Great War had swallowed Europe in a relentless storm of death and despair. The trenches near Passchendaele were a miserable, rain-soaked expanse of filth and decay. Rats scurried along the wooden planks, bloated from feasting on the unburied dead. Will had grown accustomed to the stench of rot and the ever-present threat of mustard gas. Yet, the human spirit proved resilient in unexpected ways. His comrades, despite the hellish conditions, found moments to laugh, to sing, and to dream of the lives they'd left behind. Will pulled a folded photograph from his jacket pocket, its edges worn from constant handling. The image showed a young woman with a wide smile and gentle eyes, his wife, Emma. She stood in front of their modest farmhouse, her hands resting protectively on her swollen belly. Will had left for war before their child was born, and every letter he received spoke of a daughter who had his eyes and Emma's stubborn determination. Dreaming of home again, Hargrove, came a familiar voice. Will looked up to see Corporal Tommy Radcliffe, his best friend since basic training, leaning against the trench wall with a lopsided grin. Tommy's uniform was as ragged and mud-streaked as Will's, but his humor remained intact, a lifeline for them both. "Always," Will replied, slipping the photograph back into his pocket. "What about you? Thinking of that pub in London you never stopped talking about?" Tommy chuckled. "The Crown and Anchor? Damn right I am. First round's on me when we get out of this mess." Will managed a small smile. "I'll hold you to that." Their conversation was cut short by the shrill blast of a whistle. The men in the trench tensed, knowing what came next. Orders barked down the line, demanded they ready their rifles and fix bayonets. The objective was simple: take the enemy's position just beyond the ridge. The cost, as always, would be steep. "Let's go, boys," shouted Sergeant Carter, his voice hoarse but firm. Over the top. Will's heart pounded as he scrambled up the ladder, his boots slipping on the slick wood. The moment he emerged into no man's land, the cacophony of war engulfed him. Machine guns chattered like angry hornets, artillery shells exploded in deafening bursts, and the screams of the wounded cut through the chaos. He ran, his legs moving as if on autopilot, the weight of his rifle a constant companion. Around him, men fell, some with a cry, others in eerie silence. The air reeked of gunpowder and blood. The ground beneath his feet was a quagmire of mud and gore, threatening to pull him under with every step. Tommy was beside him, his face set in grim determination. "Keep moving, Will," he shouted over the roar of battle. Ahead, the enemy trench loomed, a jagged line of sandbags and barbed wire. Will's breath came in ragged gasps as he closed the distance. A bullet zipped past his ear, and he ducked instinctively, his body pressed against the cold, wet earth. "Tommy?" Will called, but his friend was nowhere to be seen. Summoning every ounce of courage, Will climbed over the wire and plunged into the enemy trench. Chaos reigned within its confines, hand-to-hand combat, desperate shouts, and the clash of steel. Will's bayonet found its mark, and he pushed forward, his mind numb to the horrors around him. Minutes felt like hours, but eventually, the trench was theirs. The survivors gathered, their faces etched with exhaustion and grief. Sergeant Carter ordered them to fortify their position and await further instructions. Will sank to the ground, his chest heaving. He scanned the faces around him, searching desperately for Tommy. "Will," a weak voice called. Will turned to see Tommy slumped against the trench wall, blood seeping from a wound in his side. He rushed to his friend's side, his hands trembling as he pressed a bandage to the wound. "You're going to be fine," Will said, his voice cracking. "Just hold on." Tommy managed a faint smile. "Don't lie to me, mate. I've had worse scrapes falling off my bike as a kid." "Shut up, Tommy," Will said, tears streaming down his face. "You're going to make it. You owe me that pint, remembers? Tommy's hand gripped Will's arm weakly. Take care of yourself, Will. And if you see Emma, tell her I said hi. With those words, Tommy's grip slackened, and his eyes closed for the last time. Will sat frozen, the world around him a blur. He had lost friends before, but this was different. Tommy had been his anchor, his brother in arms. Now he was gone. The following days passed in a haze. Reinforcements arrived, and the men were pulled back to the rear for a brief respite. Will found himself in a quiet corner of a field hospital, staring at the photograph of Emma and their daughter. He wrote a letter that night, the words flowing with an honesty he hadn't known he possessed. My dearest Emma, today I lost a friend, a brother. Tommy was the best of us, and he deserved better. This war has taken so much, but it cannot take the love I carry for you and our little girl. You are my light in this darkness, my reason to keep going. When this nightmare ends, I will come home to you. That's a promise. Yours always, Will. When the war finally ended months later, Will returned to his family, carrying with him the scars of what he had seen and endured. He kept Tommy's memory alive, sharing stories of their camaraderie and bravery with Emma and their daughter. Though the echoes of the battlefield never truly faded, Will found solace in the life he rebuilt. He honored those who had fallen by cherishing every moment, knowing that their sacrifice had paved the way for peace.